Hi everyone, my name is Della Phillips. I'm an artist as well as I'm known as the Bicycle Lady. How are you doing today? I'm doing great. Now, I'm going to be drawing today with graphite, and I will be using the Musgrave Unigraph along with the Musgrave 600 News. Promised I would do that, as you saw in my last video. What I've decided to draw is a pear, just like last time I drew. Only this time, instead of doing what would be known as freehand, some people call it, or the contour line outline, and then doing the organic contour lines inside to help know how to place the shading. What I think I will be doing is more or less using geometric shapes to get the overall outline and then shape of the pear, and then go back in with the organic contours to know how to place the shading. So let's get to it. And I will put this up on the community page for the picture. And as just a brief review, I get the Unigraph, I swatched them out. This line I pressed as hard as I can to make sure how the different grades look. Maybe as I go up and down you can see it. And it went from 6B to 6H. So we have a fair gradation. It looks like it steps pretty well down. Maybe a little bit of the same from F looks almost like it should be the HB and HB the F, but those guidelines on how these grades is actually not written in stone, as they say. It's not the absolute. It's recommendations, and manufacturers can follow if they're not. For the most part, I really like these Unigraphs. I've liked Musgrave for a long time, and there was a period there were some manufacturing issues coming up with the graphite core. That's all been resolved, as you can see from this. Gone back to fantastic quality, so I'm very happy, and I, without hesitation, would recommend them. No problem, and especially love the 600 News for general drawing and drafting or laying things out. All right. Let's get started, and let me get this opened up so I can get to the pencils as well. I think it's time for the shading part of it. Let's see. I think I'll do this the same size, so I'm just going to go ahead and we could lay in a plumb line. Probably won't be a bad idea, which is a line that goes down the center. And the geometric forms is more or less, this is an oval with a trapezoid and then a little bit more there. So let's go ahead and let's measure out how big of an oval we would want. And I am going to lay that in as a square. Let's say about there. And that's off a bit. About there, I think. About right? Yeah. And how high up? Probably about there. Now, if I was being very exact, as you know from citing and so forth, I would use one measurement. For example, I could use this here, and everything would be based off that one measurement. So it would be one here, and then so forth. I don't think it's necessary so much to do that. So that's top there, and from that top down to about here is approximately there. So let's get going with the geometric shapes to get the overall form and help me get the oval correct. I did do the box. Now if this oval is slightly lopsided, so I might, if it was perfectly oval, what you can do is basically have a mark halfway up here and here, here and here, and then you have some guidelines to go by. But on this case, I'm gonna make the oval a little bit lopsided. There. Now we need to get the trapezoid there, which is essentially about like here, more or less, and about here, and then it goes up to about 2 across there. So that's about right. And let's see what type of angle we have here. Hopefully I've had that on picture. So if we put the pencil straight perpendicular, you can see the angle here is what, a 30-degree angle or close to it. So up there, and not quite a 30-degree angle, a little bit less there, which would be more this side here, and let's go ahead and get this straightened out. That's more angled there. All right, now we've got to here, so we've got to get this done. All right, so we have this center, which is essentially going to be pretty much the width of this. And I believe we're probably looking at something like this. Make an oval. And then from that, and let's take this up here. Nice thing with fruit and other things is that, you know, they talk about as long as you get the characteristics essentially related, this is being done here, you really don't have to put a whole lot of worry into everything being copied exactly, because hey, it will look realistic. And there we got the outline of the pear. So I'm going to come in here and erase out these geometric shapes. Essentially, change that up a little bit as I look at it. That essentially helped us do this. And then we can lay in the organic lines showing the contour of the surface, and then I think I'll use the bigger one I have left. I need to get out my new eraser, and then what's left of this, which is I can then use, I can cut, you know, slivers off, and I can have sharp edges with that. is normally what I do with the smaller ends once it gets to that shade. Alright, so I'm rather pleased with this, except I think I'm going to change this a bit here. There we go. Because always seems like there's like a hip-like situation here. Alright, so we got most of this done. Let's get there we go. And we have a line like this, light. We have this here. Now normally I wouldn't be putting it in this dark, but you've heard me say this before. The reason why I put it in that dark is so you can see it on video. Otherwise it may not show up. So that's the reason why I like using the news. Plus the news lays down so nicely. Now here we have a situation where we want to see what's going on, and as we look at the reference photo here, you can see this goes down here, but that goes behind, and then when we get down to here, it seems to come up. That's the reason why it catches the light, and then goes right back down again. So, essentially have that type of situation. And got another one where we're going to go down a little bit, tip the iceberg, or go through. May not be as drastic there. And so we end up with a little bit coming out there. And absolutely like this as well. Alright, so now we have that. The other thing is, let's come across, because you can see it here. That's where that indentation is, and you have another one which kind of dips down a little bit and then up here, and then we have another line there and here. So essentially when you lay these all out, like I said in the prior one, it's like getting a wireform of what's going on. But it does give you, even if an artist doesn't actually pencil it in, like we've done here, it's good to do so for practice, because many times when you start thinking of shading and looking, this helps you make the placement, and they'll do it in what they call the mind's eye. So, we're to that point now, and let me take this off. And it's time for shading. Now I'm going to lighten those up a bit. I think you'll still be able to see them, but I'm going to lighten those super dark ones I made up just a touch. And let's get going. Alright. Now what you're seeing here is that I'm dumping out my Unigraph pencils and putting them in some sort of order, so it'd be a little easier to grab some of the different grades when I need to. Now, I thought about speeding this drawing process up as far as the video is concerned, maybe need 2 or 3 times the speed.
Then I thought maybe you might want to control it yourself. So if you want to watch it faster, you can change the speed in YouTube in your settings, or click through it, or just watch it real time. I think watching it real time does show my process and the amount of time it does take to do a well shaded picture. And many of them I would take for a pear even longer than this. But I think this gives a good representation. Now, how do you work? Do you immediately go in and place all the super dark values first and then work your way to the light? No. Like most, the best thing to do is put the graphite down in layers and slowly bring up your dark values through building up the layers. That way, if you need to change anything, you can, because if you immediately go in super dark, you won't be able to erase it. You won't be able to modify it at all so you can get a good depth of the layers. So I don't do that. That's not my style. So what you saw me using with the eraser is to lighten up the lines a bit. And I'm going back even with my stick eraser, doing that more. And please excuse my head getting in the way. I still haven't gotten my new glasses yet, but that's coming. And I do apologize for that, but please give me a pass on that. Yeah. Sometimes it's good to get a little closer to the work. I am, throughout my life, nearsighted in one eye with stigmatism as well. So even with new glasses, I may at times get my head in the picture. And it does appear I was having a bit of a bad hair day when I videoed this. So again, I apologize for the head in the picture, but I believe it does show greatly with me looking back and forth to the reference and starting to lay in the shaded darker value onto the left. And you can see I am putting it in a little bit darker, but not super dark. It's if need be, it could be erased, but I don't believe I'll be doing that. I'm just slowly laying in, give myself a little bit of guidelines, and to possibly be able to feather it out or blend it out to give it a like smooth transition, and hard lines where it's needed to be hard lines. Now, I will jump in on occasion to tell you what I'm doing. For example, I just picked up a 2B pencil that I laid out, and prior to that I was using the F pencil. And then you see me deciding, well, I don't need that contour line so dark anymore. And I put them in super dark. Normally, you don't. You make them super light, and then you can erase as you go, even the super light ones, or it's a mute point. But I did put them in quite a bit darker for you. I lightened them up, and I'm even removing even more as I work through different areas. Now, I do like to jump back and forth to different areas. I do try to work from left to right since I'm a right-handed person. However, I do not normally just finish up one section and then jump. I like to work on sections in various parts of the drawing that's of similar value. And then in the end I'll make sure everything gets tied in. And that's the reason why I'm working here on the stem. That's super dark, and it's a similar value to what you would see on the far left of the pear. You did see me move the paper, and I encourage people to move your paper around. Even if you have it mounted to a board, make it to where it's comfortable and easy to reach. Now normally I would work slanted, slightly slanted. You know I have the pucks, I've discussed that before, the riser pucks. However, it doesn't give a good video with the way I can video if I have the drawing I'm working on at an angle, even a slight one. It will skew it. So here I'm working flat, and that's also probably the reason why I have to put my head over the top of it to make sure I'm not skewing things, because it is flat. So here you're seeing I'm again putting in super dark. I believe that's a 4B that I have in my hand now. And I'm slowly laying in some more of the dark shadow and going very light, kind of coming out from that. Constantly checking the reference. Normally what you want to do is you want to spend at least 50% of the time with your eye on the item that you're drawing to get the best results. Now you see I'm lightening up some areas again and erasing some lines, and then I'm going to go back in and erase a little further on the lines up at the top, the contour lines I put in. And please excuse my neighbor's dog barking if you hear that in the background. I apologize. It seems like every time I try to do a voiceover that the dog starts barking. So now I'm just going to let you keep an eye on what I'm doing. I believe I have the 2B in my hand at this point in time. I believe I changed that out after I erased. And as you see, I'm starting to put down the base layer for the shadow and setting the feathered edge. Now I will go make this area darker. You'll see I slowly build it up, and that's what I recommend other people do. And then the darkest value is not the darkest value over to the far right of the pear. It's actually underneath the pear. It's part of the beginning part of the shadow. Now the shadow disperses out, and you really need to reflect that. It's not one solid, well-defined, super dark blob. There is an area where it's super dark, which is right under the pear, and then it slowly gradiates out. And you'll see that when I put that in. I believe here I'm using the 4B again, and I'm starting to put in some of the shadow at the bottom and starting to build that up as well. I'm going to only jump in when I do something that changes or needs comment. Otherwise, I'm going to leave you to watching. And if you watch this long, I do appreciate it. And please just consider subscribing. It would really help me out a lot with YouTube. And it doesn't cost any money. So please consider that, as well as if you find the video enjoyable, informative, please give it a thumbs up as well. That also helps me out with YouTube. So here you see me bringing the eraser back in and erasing a little bit of that center line and making it lighter. And here I noticed that I did accidentally mark the reference when I was explaining what I was going to do. So I took that pencil line off as well. Sometimes to take those breaks and so forth, it gives you a chance to look at it from a whole, even though you're doing other things. And some people may think it's busy work, but it's good to take breaks, especially after, at least every 15 minutes or so. If it's just a second to sit back and go, and just then come back and look at the art with one more fresh eyes and see what you need to do. And that's, I believe, what I did here. Maybe not for 15 minutes, but for a few seconds or so. And now I'm laying in more of the darker value. And I do have the 4B. I'm going very light, even though it is a 4B. And I believe the pear is now starting to shape up pretty nicely. So I'm going to leave you to watching this. I'll jump back in with comments when needed. And I appreciate you watching. Now here I switched back to the F, and I'm laying in a little bit of light shading here to start to contour the bottom. And I'm adjusting it a bit with the eraser. You really do draw with the eraser or mold the drawing and how you are creating values in the drawing with your graphite or whatever medium you're using. So don't look at it as just an eraser tool. It's an art shaper, you might say. Or you can draw with it, you can move graphite around with it. So it's more than just erasing. That's what I'm trying to get at. So use it that way and practice using it that way. I'm putting in a little bit of blemishes that's on the reference. It shows like a ding or whatever that's turned dark. And I'm going back up to work a little bit with the shading a bit. As you can tell, I do have the pencil. Lightening up one area. And as you see, since I'm working lightly in layers, I was able to do that easily. If you'd gone in and put down a very heavy load, you couldn't have done that. Now, turn the paper again. I'm going to work a little more on the contour, and I'm shading with the indication of the organic contour lines and forms. And I'm jumping back and forth to various areas as well. It just helps me keep in mind the whole picture. And there I'm taking back out in some areas that are lighter, as you can see, and I don't want to lose that. And I'm shading again because it's a little bit too light from exposing the lid. I need to just slightly knock back that super white look from removing the shading I previously put in to get it to blend in right and look right as far as I was concerned. Now, if you have trouble discerning that with a color reference, you can always take that into a program such as Paint or Photoshop. They do have a photo editor that you can do this as well. That comes free with your Microsoft, at least Microsoft 10, and just enlarge it and change the color value to where it's black and white, and then you can use that as an aid. It's not absolute, so keep that in mind. You have the final edit and the say in that, as well as you can change the value of darkness and lightness as well, and clarity, a lot of different things. So check that out. It's free. Or if you have Photoshop, that'd be a fantastic thing to do. If you want to use a paint program, for example, I sometimes will use paint.net. A lot of different tools out there. And in this case, I felt very comfortable working from the color reference I found. And I'm going to keep on shading here, and I'll let you watch that. I'll jump back in when things change again. Going back to the F pencil to start laying in a blended out area. I'm switching to a darker pencil. I believe that's a 4B, so I can work on that. Eventually you'll see me bring out the 6B, especially when I do the shadow. The darkest value in this whole painting is not the shadow on the right hand side, although it does come somewhat close. It's actually in the shadow underneath the pear. Now, a shadow underneath the pear is not going to be one big, solid, super dark color. Shadows have a gradation, as you can see here. And what you can do is lay down a super dark area that helps define the bottom. And it makes it look a little bit lighter, so there's a bit of reflected light that you see, that you also see in the reference, and that's a good way to obtain that. And make that super dark, and then slowly radiate it out. And as you can see with this reference, the round part of the bottom is somewhat defined. And then there's much lighter towards the top that comes in. So you'll see that, and I will be using a 6B. You'll see me constantly going back and forth, drawing with the eraser, maybe lighten the areas, making sure there's no hard lines because I want that blended a little bit smoother. So you'll see me constantly doing that. Here I'm looking at the pencil grade. I want to change the pencil. And this is my F pencil. I'm going back to that because I'm going to a lighter area, but it's not totally devoid of color like a super highlight. There is some value change, but very little, so I'm going to use the lighter pencil as well. As you see, I'm changing taking off some of the value at the bottom where there's a little bit of reflected, the small line of reflected light. But you'll see that I go back over with the F pencil because it doesn't need to be absolute white. It just needs to be a little bit lighter than the rest. So I'm doing that, and I'll leave you to watching. And as I said, when I get to the values, you'll see I'll pick up a 6B to do the shade underneath the pear, and then go to a 4B when I do the rest of the shadow as well. And I'll just let you go ahead and watch my process here. pretty much done here. As you see, I'm still doing a little bit of blending and shading out, but I'm pretty happy of how this has pretty much turned out. Now I will do some additional shading and blending, lightly bringing those layers together. And here shortly, you're going to see where I will pick up the Vanish eraser, like right now, and I'll carve out or bring back that super highlight on the far right hand side of the pear. And I'll pick up and shade some of the other areas because the brightest part is there, and there are other areas that are light, but I'm going to go back and forth and pretty much finish this drawing up and clean it up. I hope you enjoyed this, seeing my process. Now if I was going to take it to a super level, it probably would have taken me close to an hour to do this, whereas as you can tell, it's just under 30 minutes, which still I like the results I got. It's nice and well blended out, and I think a very good pear. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you have any suggestions or recommendations, I promptly respond to all comments, and I do appreciate them. So thank you in advance for commenting. As well, if you find this video helpful, informative, or just that you like it, please consider subscribing. It would really help me out a lot with YouTube. As well as click on that thumbs up icon saying that you like the video. It lets them know that you like this type of content, and it enables me to continue to make this type of video for you. So until next time, you have a wonderful day. And again, thank you for watching and subscribing. Bye now.